Alright, so I figured I'd make a little quick video on what can you do with a single relief case. Maybe that's the only case you have, and you know what, I mean, you can build an engine with a single relief case, and it's not, you know, a terrible thing. But here's where I kind of draw the line is, you know, first of all, let's talk about the problem again. This will be a little bit repetitive to the other guys who watched the single relief, dual relief video. But the problem with the single relief case is this port that goes through here that feeds all the parts of the engine. There's one large port that goes through here that actually feeds all the engine. This is much smaller than, you know, it's much smaller than the dual relief case. And so what happens is, as you get through here to where you get to the end, your pressure diminishes because of resistance, okay, and you're limited on how much oil pressure you can get to the back bearings or to the center main, where a lot of the oiling is done in that engine. So they had a really small oil pump on them. So, and in the later years, they actually increased the oil pump to the 26 millimeter, which you could do that to a single relief case. But then what happens is there's always the worry of RPM and blowing up the oil cooler and stuff like that, because what happens is, you know, if the oil is really thick, that's usually when you have a problem with that. So, but anyway, that's kind of a, you know, the short version of that problem. And, you know, because there's no second relief on the other end to regulate the oil pressure. That's what the second relief valve was, to keep the oil pressure constant, and then you would always have better supply to your bearings as well. So the whole design of the case was a little bit better. These aren't too bad, you know, there's things that you can do to them, but this is kind of where I kind of draw the line. Is, let's say you've got a single relief case, and the single relief case needs a line bore. Maybe it needs deep set studs. Maybe it needs doesn't have the, you know, this one's already been done. So it's got a deep set stud, line bore's been done. It's in good shape. These have already been case savered. You know, if you're going to take a single relief case and you're going to take it to the machine shop, you're going to have it line bored. You're going to have it opened up for this is already opened for 92s. So, 90.5s, 92s. If you're gonna take it to the machine shop and have all that work done to it, maybe, and this one's been sand sealed, you know, somebody spent a lot of money. It wasn't me that did it. You know, before I got the engine, somebody else spent a lot of money. I wouldn't have, you know. And the thing is, before you go and spend all that money, you're still going to have a limit, and it's going to have a wear limit on your parts that you're going to put in it. So let's say you put in a really expensive crankshaft. Let's say you put in a, they're what, $275 or so for a crankshaft, and you put in a set of rods, $1.25 for a good set of rods, and you're going for a stroker engine or something like that, and you're still limited on your RPMs, because if you rev it up to get too many RPMs in it, you are going to not have enough oil supply, because you're not going to meet that 10 pounds per 1,000 RPM is the basic. That's the basic rule for oil pressure. So if you're going to run 6,000 RPMs, you know, which is a lot of people, when you're doing performance, you're going to be running 6,000 RPMs. You need 60 pounds of oil pressure to the center main and to the back, and there's no way to really check that. You can only check what's coming out of the pump, which will be probably a lot higher than that, because again, as it goes through here, you have a pressure loss because of resistance, because it's a smaller passage. So, you know, this is kind of where I draw the line. If you got to get machine work done to it, a lot of it, let's say you're going to just do a line bore, that's okay. You know, that's not a lot of money to invest in. But if you need to do deep set studs, you need to do line bore, you need to do, case savers, you need to do lifter bores, you know, and the block's good, you know, you're getting up to that point where you're almost halfway to buying a new case. So, you know, at that point I say, you know, it's time to just go ahead and spend the money and buy the aluminum case, because once you buy an aluminum case once, it's pretty much done. I mean, Chris took apart a motor in his shop, and somebody broke a crankshaft, and it didn't even touch the line bore. He took it into the shop. Tech had the line bore tested, and they're like, nope, it's perfect. There's nothing wrong, because the aluminum cases were much stronger. So, you know, a lot of people still want mag cases, but honestly, if you're going to spend the money, if you're getting up to that $800 range, you know, with you're at like $795 for mag case, you know, God, $50 more, you're into aluminum, and it's just a better case, and it's already opened up for all the stuff you need done. It's just you know, to me, it's the way to go. But you know, there's still people out there that really want to run the mag because it's lighter. You know, heck with that. I'll take the 25 pounds myself and go for stronger and more longevity. So, but that's kind of where I draw the line on it. So you have to think about, okay, well, am I gonna, so it's like a guy goes and goes, man, I'm gonna build a 2276 or whatever with a single relief case. It's like, okay, so you're gonna spend all that money on the machine work, okay, to open up that case. I mean, it might be $400 or more on a machine work you're gonna spend on that, and you know, it's not gonna have good oiling. So the thing is it's adequate oiling. I'm not going to say it's not. For 1600, it's fine. There's no reason, you know, if you're going to run a 1600, if you're not going to get all the machine work done, let's say you're just going to get a line bore, you're going to put new jugs in it, and you just want a good running engine, and you put a 26mm pump on it maybe, and then, you know, to ramp up the oil pressure a little bit more to make sure that as it wears, you know, you don't start to lose that oil pressure to the back, to the center main, to the back of the engine. And you know, the thing to worry about is, again, you know, those, you could put on one of those aftermarket oil coolers, and I did that with this engine. I mean, I had that aftermarket oil cooler on. You could actually run the aftermarket oil cooler, that little adapter that goes here. Oh. They have these style oil filters, okay, and it's basically the stand that goes on here that goes with this, okay. I don't know where it's buried right now, but one of these for the oil filter, but the only thing you got to be careful with is, remember, that oil filter could also blow up. I'd be surprised if it did, but you could put and you could get hydraulic hose. I'll show you what it looks like. They have this stuff here on eBay. There's a guy who sells lengths of it, and it already has the end on it. And again, if you're going to do this, do it at your own risk, because I'm just throwing out the idea. And what I would do is, where this thing goes on here, you could either use the gasket, but you know what I would do is I would take the piece that goes on that's kind of like this shape, and I would actually cut an O-ring groove on the, either take your drill press and clamp this baby in there, and then take one of those hole saws and put an O-ring groove in there, and put an O-ring in there, so that it's had a really nice firm surface down here, so you could hold a lot of pressure. And I would O-ring that thing, because I've seen guys use the regular oil cooler seals on here and actually crush them to the point where they don't have much flow going through there. That's a big problem. So I would be very careful in doing that. And you know, to me, it wouldn't be a bad engine. You know, it wouldn't be something, you know, but I would limit the investment that I would put inside of it. You know, a good cam for that, if you were going to do something like that, would be, again, the Web 86 with Web 86 is a great cam for intermediate RPMs, and it does really well with the lower RPMs. The Web 86 with 1.5 rockers is a nice setup for that. It gives you a decent, you know, low end, mid range. It gets up to the top end. It can actually rev pretty high, maybe even go higher than the engine would like. So you might want to put in a rev limiting, you know, MSD or something, or a rev limiting rotor, whatever you want to do. They make either one. The thing is, you figure out what you think your limit is, and if you can estimate how much oil pressure you think that's going to have at the back, get your slide rule out. I don't know how big that opening is. I'm saying that, get your slide rule out. I mean, I'm just joking. I don't know. You can figure that out. Figure out how much oil pressure you think that the center main, the back main, is going to get. If the engine's pretty tight, as the engine wears, that's where you have issues. As the engine starts to wear, the bearings start to leak off oil, and the volume to those areas are going to get weaker, and that's where the old, whatever they were, I can't remember how many millimeter. I think they're 20 millimeter pumps that were on the front. They limit, how much, that I wouldn't run one of those. I would run the bigger pump. I'd just go for the bigger one, especially if you're going to do much to it, and risk the fact that, in the really, really cold weather, you might have an issue, with overpressuring. I would be surprised if it did. 26, I would be surprised if it did, if you did the type of thing that I'm talking about, where, you've got that hydraulic hose going in here. I mean, these things are pretty tough. Some of these things will hold quite a bit of pressure, but if you just want to just bulletproof type thing, that's the way I kind of like to do things. Is kind of, go overkill and put I'd put hydraulic hose in there, and because you can get that really cheap on eBay. But like I said, limit how much money you're going to put in it. That's the thing. If you're putting a ton of money in a single relief, it's just kind of like, don't be surprised if you lose it all. So, anyway, that's just an idea for a single relief case. Maybe that's all you have. Maybe that's where you live. Whatever. There's machine shops are really far away, and all you have that's in a really good condition is a single relief case. That's an idea to throw out there for you. Talk to you in the next video. Please like, share, and subscribe.